thank you, Paul Latham, that I can be here with you in the headquarters of the Salvation Army, middle of London. Beautiful building here. You see here the people walking by, all with glass and a lot of writings on the wall.
Yes.
Through him, all things were made. One of the sentences behind you.
Wonderful. Yes.
Yes,
I've
Paul
always
Latham
felt
is
that
actually.
too. Yes. It is wonderful that we can work with God's creation in this particular program.
That's
of
great.
caterpillars.
Yes.
Yes.
Paul Latham.
I used to work here.
Yeah. When?
From 1978 till 84, and it was while I was working here that I first went to the Congo and fell in love with the country.
So tell me about this love a little bit. Why Congo?
To me, it represents Africa, real Africa. When I started working in Africa, it was in Rhodesia, what was called Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. And I felt that's not true Africa, because there was so much European influence, overseas influence. So when we moved to Kenya and had 16 years there, and that was much better. But when I started to go to the Congo, I just thought, no, this is real Africa.
And what is real Africa? What is?
It's completely. There's not the European background and so much of the history of involvement in the country. And once you're outside Kinshasa, in the village, to be able to get to know people and for them not to feel that you're the master or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're one of them. You're with them. You're living with them, amongst them. And that was very special. Yes. So my wife and I, we went there in '84 to work. Unfortunately, she became very ill after 6 months, and we had to come out. But that was the first taste of Congo, and it's always remained with me.
So let's talk a little bit about your history, your biography. So
yes.
When have you been born? Where have you been?
I was born in 1936 in the south of London, and my father was a doctor, and they sent me off to school, a boarding school, and when I finished that, I didn't know what to do. But I was at school in the country, and I became interested in the countryside, and so I decided to try and study agriculture. And while I was studying botany and chemistry, I worked beside a young man who was a Salvationist, belonged to the Salvation Army. And we went together to France on bicycles. We went for, I think,
after the war? Or?
Oh, yes.
When then?
That would have been 55 or 56.
Okay. 20. You have been 20 then.
That's right. And we cycled. And we only took £9 with us each. So that got finished. We had to go round the coast eating mussels and collecting potatoes and then staying in farmers' barns or under the hedge or just on the beach. And when I came back, while I was there, he took me to meet a man who'd worked in Devil's Island and for the Salvation Army, and he had worked amongst the people who'd had very little chance of ever returning to France. And one of the projects that he had to help people earn money to return to France was to breed butterflies and sell them back in France or back in Europe.
What kind of butterflies?
Wild butterflies from South America, because he worked in Devil's Island. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I didn't explain that.
Yeah.
He'd worked for many years in Devil's Island, off the coast of South America.
Yeah.
And so he encouraged people to breed these or collect the butterflies and sell them. He would arrange to sell them in France. And this thereby they were able to earn some money to return home. And eventually the Salvation Army managed to get the Devil's Island prison settlement closed and the people repatriated. So while I was staying with him and his wife, I read a book that he'd written called The Conquest of Devil's Island. And I felt, this is just an ordinary man, and yet God has used him in a wonderful way to help these people. And I felt, I want to do something like that. So when I came back home, I was working on a farm. I had to do a year's practical work on a farm before I went to university to study agriculture. And while I was there, I started attending the Salvation Army in a place called Crewe. And one Sunday night, I just felt God speak to me and say, I want you. And from that time, I felt God directing me, and I just wanted to do what He wanted me to do. So I became a Salvation Army officer.
So how do you become a Salvation Army officer? You just go there and actually...
No, you have to go through a period of training. For us it was 9 months. 9 months training.
Okay.
Intensive, very intensive.
But everybody can become this? Or, I mean, if I would decide to become a Salvation...
First of all, you become a member of the Salvation Army, and then you're trained as an officer.
Yeah.
I think now it's 2 years rather than 9 months. 9 months was a bit short. But anyway, after I'd finished my training, I felt God wants me to go to Africa to work with farmers. And it didn't work out at first. I was sent to a teacher training school in Rhodesia.
In?
Rhodesia, in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
And but fortunately, it was only 14 months. And then the Salvation Army opened a farmers' training centre in Kenya and asked me to go and work there. And I worked there for about 8 years, first of all, getting it off, starting it up, going and visiting the farmers, staying with them, visiting around their fields, helping them with all sorts of practical things like that. And then, after that, the government asked me to go and help run what were called village polytechnics, which is a very simple sort of village training in things like repairing bicycles, repairing cars, building, beekeeping, all sorts of practical things to help young people, rather than drift into the city, they would be able to become established on their own and earn their own living in the village. And so that was the scheme I helped with the government for a short time.
That's still now one of the important tasks there. To keep the people on the land.
That's right. Yes. And I think.
Did you realize something about the Second World War also when you have been in France, or was it already rebuilt, or have you?
I wasn't aware of.
Experience the war? I mean, you have been very young then, but.
Yeah. Yes. No, I was in England. I was in the south of London during the war. I do remember. Some nights we had to go into an air raid shelter and stay there. And then in the morning I'd go outside with my brother and we'd collect the bits of shells and take them to school and see who had the biggest piece.
Okay.
And swap them,
Yeah. When you have been in France with your friend, did you see then the traces of the war in France?
Oh yes, it was after the war. This was 10 years after the end of the war. That was 55.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there were a lot of ruins then. Ruins and.
I don't remember seeing many ruins. Okay. I can't remember that.
Okay.
We stayed right near the coast, went all around Brittany, and then ended up at La Rochelle, crossed over to Ile de Ré, and then I think we came back on the train. I don't know how we afforded that.
Okay.
Because we'd run out of money.
You said that in the Democratic Republic of Congo today, what was it called then when you went there first?
Zaire.
Zaire. Huh?
That's right.
So it changed.
And the province was Bazaïr.
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 It was where?
Then that would have been 1980 to 84. I forget when they changed to Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was the situation then when you arrived first time in Congo compared to today? I mean, everywhere you have been probably in the world, you would see a development of the cities. And how is it? Because you overview a long time of development in Congo now.
I think the main thing is the loss of forest. Tremendous destruction of the forest.
Yep.
I remember shortly after leaving Kasangulu on the road to Kisantu, there was still quite a lot of forest there. Even around Kasangulu, there was quite a lot of forest. But the last time I went there, I mean, you have to go miles before you get a decent forest. I remember around Banzangungu and on the road to Gombe Matadi, there was a lot of forest there. People maintained the old traditional system of kunku, the traditional forest rotation. But I think it's disappeared now.
There's no forest around Kinshasa anymore. That's only on top of some hills.
Yes.
Where it's difficult.
Well, they're often graves. Or I think that's the thing.
Yeah. And the development of the society. Have you been successful in keeping the people on the land? Then, though you told about this program
for anything. Yes, we had the Salvation Army had an agricultural program, and from that developed a beekeeping program.
Yep.
Which helped a lot of people, especially the women.
Yeah.
A lot of women took it up because it wasn't a traditional men's activity. And it was great to see the women able to earn money for clothing and school fees and food, that sort of thing, from beekeeping.
Still going on in Kilueko today, so
very
I
good.
made some documentation about that too.
Sure.
That's really something very nice. And it's so simple
Yes.
compared to the techniques here.
That's right.
You know, you just put an empty box into a piece of forest, you know, and in an opening, and that's it, and you wait till they come.
I remember first going to this place near Banzangungu. It was forest then, and the Salvation Army had a youth camp, and there was quite a lot of forest there. They managed to keep the forest, and I remember seeing bees visiting a number of flowers, and I thought, this place could be a centre for encouraging beekeeping, and that's where it started. And we had some Peace Corps volunteers came, and they introduced beekeeping into the community there, and I think it grew from there.
The attraction of the city is still very strong. If you look at Kinshasa, with around 10 or 20 million, you can even not count the people. It's also Lemfu, a city that is coming out of the dirt of the roads, more or less, near Kilueka, 20,000 people now. Estimated. You cannot count them.
No.
But
I know Kinshasa has grown enormously.
Incredible.
When I first went there, it stopped at the top of the hill. I can't remember the name of the place, just outside the city of Kinshasa. But no, it's extended right out towards Kasangulu.
Yeah. And a lot of houses are empty along the street of the National Road 16.
Yes.
The houses, nobody's there. Kilueka, Augustin was born there. This was a big village, but now it's about 20 houses or something.
Is it? So it's become smaller?
Yeah, more small. And I know why, because it's nothing happening there, you know. You can only work or sleep.
Yes, sure. So people have moved away into the city?
Yeah, they probably think it's more entertainment, more life, more action.
Sure.
Yeah. So this could be also one of the problems.
And hopefully the project will bring young people back into the village and for them, so that they see that there's something.
Yeah, they should have a place to meet to talk, to dance, to make music, like we do here also, you know, if we are young and start into our lives. So that's probably one of the things that should not be forgotten in the villages, you know. And we had a meeting where we played music. The last day I was there. This was a huge party. There was only a little bit of music, and everybody was the whole night on the feet dancing and
that's
talking.
Another special thing about Congo, the music.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You can't sit still.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's really great. So tell me a little bit about your first time you met Augustin and with the caterpillars, because you have been you have written this little book about the edible caterpillars and their fodder plants.
Yes, that was really
caught my attraction, so that's why we we met.
I think that grew from when it was at Kavwaya in 1984, because I remember going out with this group of children into the bush, and they were collecting caterpillars. And I never forget, they'd go into the forest and make a noise, and the caterpillars would jerk from side to side, and so they could pick them off the trees.
Yeah, but it was loud.
Yes.
Two, huh?
Yes.
Okay, very loud, all together.
Yes.
On a command.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
I can't remember whether it was the individual or was it the whole group of them. But
this is the starting sentence of your book, you know, and this impressed me also very much, because I've never seen something like this. And did you see the caterpillars?
Yes,
move?
I could see them. They jerk their heads jerk their bodies
because
from side
of
to
the
side.
sound.
Yes.
Okay,
It was wonderful. I'd never seen anything
like that. And what kind of caterpillars is it? Or what did they
Yes,
name?
it was called Minsangula.
Minsangula.
Yes, which is Achia Catacoloides.
Okay.
That's because last year Augustin collected some, sent them to an entomologist in Germany, Dr. Matthias Noss. He identified them, and so we know what they are. But before, they didn't know what they were.
So that was actually your starting point, that you said, what do they eat here? Well, they have, for every caterpillar that they eat, they have a name.
That's
and
right.
all the others are called makwaku.
Makwaku. That's right.
It's not edible.
Inedible ones.
Inedible,
right.
So they have a very exact name for all the edible caterpillars, but nobody knew what kind of species.
No.
Some that you knew.
Yes, well, Professor Malaise and Rolf Oberpreiler, the South African, and also Thierry Bouya in Belgium. They were a great help in identifying the species to start with. And then your photos, they were fantastic to be able to get those photos and to send them to Thierry Bouya. And straight away, the same day, he identified them.
We will make that better next time. Because I realized that for some of the species you must also take pictures from the underside of the wings.
Yes.
They are very important for identification also.
It would be very good to have the whole series from egg, larva, the 5 stages of the larva, and then the adult.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. Get that for each species.
This will be part of the work that we will do now.
And then not only the Saturnidae, also the other, the Notodontidae and the various other species, because there are still many that haven't been identified, especially the non-Saturnidae.
So I'm happy that you can go to Congo now.
Yes.
You said that you had your visa now.
Well, I can get my visa.
Great. So you will see it with your own eyes. So that was the reason why I brought the light trap to Kiloeco to see what kind of populations are still there.
Yes.
And this was real funny, and it was astonishing, the biodiversity of insects that still are there, because from all other animals everything is lost. There's no bigger animal than a rat or a mouse living there. So.
Yes, imagine that they burn the whole countryside just to get a couple of mice.
Yeah. Manioc.
Yes.
Manioc also.
Yes.
So did you have problem with eating manioc there?
Yes,
Because
I found it rather difficult. It's a very starchy food.
you mean the fufu?
Fufu,
Yeah.
yes, and also the shikwang.
Yeah, Sichuan,
My
yeah.
wife can't stand shikwang, nor the smell of it.
Sichuan is a little bit like cheese, you know. It has smelly.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It's all right in small amounts.
It's
but
kind
I
of
found
fermented
cassava.
cassava.
Flours.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bit difficult to eat that sometimes.
And also with the leaves, 500 million people down there are
Yes.
resistant against cyanacids,
Yes.
more or less, in the leaves of manioc, but they still eat a lot of this manioc leaf
Well, that's
that
the
you
main-
don't eat in Asia, because in Asia nobody's eating the leaves. It's too dangerous.
I mean, that's really the the only source of protein, other than a few peanuts
Peanuts,
for most people.
Yeah. So I was very, when they presented it to me, I said I would like to, but I can only eat a little bit because
Yes.
I have not this genetic system like you have with your enzyme. It's a special enzyme, but it's very present in this 500 million people
I see.
eating manioc in Africa. But nobody realizes
No, I didn't
this
realize
problem.
that. Didn't
So,
know that.
also, when I was talking to Augustin, he was such a intelligent. He knows everything, you know. He
Yes.
didn't realize that this could be a problem for the
I didn't know that was a problem.
Yeah. No, that was interesting for me because I was in Asia a long time also, and nobody's eating the leaves there.
Don't they?
They know it's very dangerous.
Yes, I mean that's the main vegetable
Yeah,
in
the main
Congo.
crop there. Yeah, yeah. And tell me more about the caterpillars. So, how did you met Augustin then, Konda?
That's a good question. We'd been working together on plants, useful plants,
Yeah.
for the book that we did, and I've always included the photos of caterpillars together with the host plant.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think he probably was interested in that, and from there we developed the project with the Salvation Army that he should start trying to breed them and rear them, particularly Serenoforda,
Yeah.
because that was such a popular caterpillar. And I remember...
Still now, you find it in amounts in the
Yes.
market, even though they are not there anymore. They are
That's
brought
right.
from far away.
Well, back in 1984, at Kasangulu, there was a school teacher from one of the Salvation Army schools, and he was rearing Serenoforda on his farm, and he made sure that the caterpillars stayed on the land there, because he wouldn't allow people to burn the land. He wouldn't allow them to collect the first harvest. So he tried to make sure that they multiplied and stayed there. Unfortunately, when he died, his son took over. He just cut all the forest, and that colony was lost.
On what plant was it then?
That was all Chrysopteryx febrifuga.
Okay. So this is the plant that
Traditionally was the host plant
fodder
in
plant.
Bakongo.
Yeah. But now this plant was not accepted anymore from
know.
another population.
I was
from
very
Bandundu.
surprised to hear that.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
That's interesting.
And the only plant that's accepted is Berkia africana.
Yeah. Yeah.
And another...
It's a little bit more difficult to
grow it.
To grow, yeah.
Yes, because it's not so common.
Yeah, not so common. So that's the problem with a little bit with Serenoforda.
Sure.
So
I was very encouraged.
Yeah.
I was very encouraged to hear now that some of the Serenoforda have hatched.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
And it's still the rain season.
Yeah.
So there's still some fairly fresh leaves, hopefully.
Yeah, could be. I mean, that is the problem with a lot of these edible caterpillars, that we don't know how long the diapause is, and if it's a good insect for agriculture, for a domestication process then.
Yeah. But it was encouraging that at least it's advanced, or at least it's advanced 3 or 4 months now. So perhaps gradually it will come to coincide with the rain season.
Yeah, that would be great.
Is that possible?
Could be, yes. Why not?
Yes.
Nature is very creative. So I'm very
so
optimistic.
So he can select those caterpillars to rear and produce the next generation. Maybe they'll...
Yes, why not? Yeah, I'm optimistic. I think nature is very creative in organizing
without
things.
the chemical of because it sounds as though it's quite difficult to use.
Yeah. So, but first time you met Augustin was, you remember that?
With Jacques. Jacques introduced me to him.
Jacques is also international director of
Salvation Army
in Switzerland. Yeah.
But he grew up in either Brazzaville or Kinshasa.
Yep.
He went to school there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So he had worked with Augustin.
Jacques was living in
Kinshasa.
In Kinshasa.
And then he worked with Heather at Kawaya on this agricultural program. Because Jacques is also from Salvation Army. His parents were working with the Salvation Army in Kinshasa.
So it's a whole scene of people from the Salvation Army now that is focused on this edible caterpillar thing because of you originally, probably, because you brought up the theme with your famous book. And the first time I realized it was 2013 in the report of the FAO, where they have this map where they show how many species of edible insects are known from each country. And Congo was pretty dark, so it had 200 known species, and all around it was blank, you know.
Sure.
And I asked myself, why is that only in Congo? And the reason was you, because you have written that book, and you wrote up to more than 200 possible species of edible insects, and that's why this map was so dark in Congo. And then I said, that's great. If one person can make such a big change in our knowledge, that's something really great. I want to know.
Yes.
I want to get to know you. So.
I think, I think reading Francois Malais's book, because he had worked.
Also, yeah.
Yes, I know he was based in Lubumbashi, but he knew quite a lot of he had a lot of contacts throughout Congo, and he helped identify many of those species too. I think he was the first person I approached for identifying the caterpillars.
Also, he and Terry Bouye were very helpful in identifying all these mosses that came to the light trap now in Kiloeka.
That's right. Yes.
With the exception of 1 or 2 that they didn't know, but a lot of them they instantly could identify. So that's great. If I know that you go there to go sit before the light trap in the night in Kiloeka, that's probably.
So they still have a light trap?
They have 2 now. They have one with mercury vapor, that's a powerful one, but you have to run it with a generator. And the other one with the battery are called cathode fluorescent lamps, very special things that work with batteries, and both work very well. And it's interesting that people have never seen them.
No.
And the mosses. And they were very astonished to, wow. And also Augustine, he was like a child. The first time he was not 1 minute wanted to go to sleep.
Well, I remember that people there said they thought the caterpillars came from this bird, Malembe-lembe.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a special kind of bird, Malembe-lembe.
Yes, Malembe-lembe. I think it was some sort of a stork. Because the appearance of the caterpillars coincided with the arrival of this bird.
Yeah. Okay.
So people thought, they're the ones that laying the caterpillars.
It's like our story. It's about the children that were brought by the stork, yeah?
That's right. Yes, sure.